Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscaboo Horror Reviews here with another video talking about movies I saw as a child child and or adolescent, that I probably shouldn't have, and they made me into a weirdo as a result. So, yeah. I got 6 movies for you today, starting off with the newest, going to the oldest. And the most recent film that I want to talk about today is Pascal Langier's Martyrs. I saw this one when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Don't ask me why. I bought it with my allowance when it was on Amazon for like $10. Now it's out of print and going for varying prices, at least last I checked. But Martyrs is basically a very, very fucked up, disturbing French horror film that is essentially a revenge film about a young woman who was kidnapped and abused as a child, and she goes on to make a friend in the orphanage she goes to, and with that friend, with the help of that friend, they go and seek revenge on the people that tortured her when she was a child. Of course, not everything is as it seems. Things go south, and this is like one of the most soul-crushing movies ever made, and I saw it when I was a kid. Yeah. Yeah. Old subscribers to my channel might remember my review of the next film. I know somebody will, in particular. But the next film I want to talk about is Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, which is the Lucifer Valentine film. Okay. From what I've read, the first 2 Vomit Gore films pretty much consist of just home movies he shot of Mara LeVay before she was murdered. There's that. Slaughtered Vomit Dolls is like absolutely a train wreck. It is impossible to get through this movie. I don't know how I got through it the one time I watched it, which was when I was about 14 years old. It was after it was like before the summer of my first year of high school. I was about to turn 15, and I decided, okay, I've seen Martyrs, let's watch Slaughtered Vomit Dolls. And I watched it, and it's led me down this very, very bad path. It is one of the worst mistakes I've ever made in my entire goddamn life, and I regret it. I immensely, immensely regret it. Slaughtered Vomit Dolls doesn't have a normal plot per se. It's basically this cut together kind of audiovisual collage of home movies, pornography, and fake snuff and vomit. Lots and lots of vomit. It's pretty much just kind of almost a vanity project for Lucifer Valentine. Because he made this movie very obviously for this market that, in the horror genre, that doesn't exist, which is this market of pseudo-snuff of vomit fetish films. I made the mistake of watching that when I was a youngin', when I was still in high school, and I say it with me, I hate myself for it. Okay. Now that we got a couple of the painful ones out of the way, get to something a little more nostalgic. The Amityville Horror from 2005. So, I remember when this movie came out, I had no knowledge of the original Amityville Horror. I just remember seeing the trailers and thinking, like, oh, this looks really, really cool. I really want to see this. And my aunt, she took me to see it when it hit the Dollar Theater, and we saw it together. And it was the first R-rated movie I ever saw in a theater. It was the first one of the first, at least as far as I can remember, horror films I ever saw in a theater. And it's always held a strange nostalgic charm for me because I remember it fucking scaring the shit out of me when I was a kid. Um, and I also remember wanting to see at the same time, wanting to see Pan's Labyrinth, which was out around the same time. And I also wanted to see um, House of Wax, which was out at the same time. Both of which I did eventually see when I was still too young to probably have seen them, and both of which might be featured in video, in one of these videos if I continue to do them. If people continue to, appreciate them. I know some people appreciate them, so, there's that. But the Amityville Horror haunted house movie based on the apparent haunting that happened at 112 Ocean Avenue. I actually very recently read the novel by Jay Anson that is essentially a recount of the Lutz's experience at the house, which has now been proven to be a hoax. But either way, it was a very interesting read and super spooky. Like, definitely got me in a creeped out mood. But yeah, the Amityville Horror. It's not a classic by any means, but it's got Ryan Reynolds in it. If you like Ryan Reynolds, there's that. And I think that's about it. So up next, we got Puppet Master from 1989. So this is a film I caught on cable when I was probably in elementary school. I probably shouldn't have watched it because Pinhead scared the hell out of me because he was just like fucking big handsy guy and he could pick up, like human. I remember thinking about it at the time and thinking the phrase human-sized objects and use them as a weapon. And then you have Tunneler, who's literally a fucking drill-headed motherfucker. Leech Woman didn't really bother me as much. Blade really fucking bothered me. I had many nightmares about it. And from then on out, comparable to my relationship with House from 1986, I would DVR it every time it came on cable. I would watch it every chance I got. And I eventually went down the rabbit hole and watched all of the sequels that I could find at my local video stores. I remember one of them I saw was Retro Puppet Master, or Puppet Master Retro, which is actually PG-13, but it's honestly one of the better late sequels in the series. As well as the clip show film Puppet Master Legacy, which isn't a film at all, just a clip show. But still, Puppet Master, not an appropriate movie, per se, but it gave me an appreciation for killer doll movies that led me to eventually come around to films like Child's Play, which are films that I saw just bits and pieces of as a kid, and I was horrified of, and I told myself I'd never watch that movie, never, ever, ever. And, Puppet Master helped me kind of come around to that. As well as airings of Bride of Chucky on cable helped me to come around to the Child's Play series. Up next is a very interesting one, because this is like, as you could tell, the things I watched when I was like in my early teens, in my childhood, a lot of the stuff I watched was stuff that, like, most people wouldn't discover, at least most people my age probably wouldn't discover until they were in their 20s, if they were into the horror scene, or into horror movies, or into low-budget exploitation cult films. But for me, I got an education pretty early. And the film I'm talking about is violent shit. I saw this. This was like the first shot-on-video film I ever saw, and it bored the fucking hell out of me. It still kind of bores the hell out of me, because it's an extremely slow and, like, just tedious movie. For it only running about an hour, it's kind of extremely boring. Now, with some friends and beer, or with just some beer, it's definitely easy to get through, and it's a fun little splatter flick, especially with the very weird, like, out of left field surrealist ending that I think is like the highlight of the entire movie. Um, how did I discover violent shit? Uh, Actually, I remember. There used to be a YouTuber who passed away. Coming on 4 years ago. I used to follow, called Emmer Prevost. He was a critic who I disagreed with quite a bit. I used to follow him a little bit, but then I stopped following him in like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And, I just didn't hear anything about him. And then I read literally a year ago that he had actually passed away, and I was like, oh, damn, like, I may not have agreed with, a lot of the things, a lot of the opinions he had on movies, but, like, damn, still, rest in peace, man. And he was one of the inspirations on me to start this channel. And he was the gateway to me finding a lot of interesting, disturbing movies, specifically me finding Slaughtered Vomit Dolls. I found it through his channel. But still, one of his earliest videos in his review series that was like pretty popular was Violent Shit, where he talked about that film, he reacted to it and watched it. That was his shtick. That was his shtick. He reacted to movies and then reviewed them. And Violent Shit, he absolutely tore apart. But in the video, he included in the link in the description a link to watch the film. And this was like on an ancient like video hosting site that is now fucking gone. But that's where I saw it. And it bored the ever-loving shit out of me. But you know what? Damn it, Violent Shit is still kind of a classic in a way. The final movie I want to talk about is Fritz the Cat, directed by Ralph Bakshi, legendary animator. So this is like the only non-horror film I think I've talked about in this series, and I kind of want to keep it short just because non-horror isn't my... things that aren't horror isn't my forte. It's not my genre. I do know a decent amount about like actual film and art house films and dramas. Like, I know things, but I'm not, super duper, I'm not a very big expert on them. However, that doesn't change the fact that Fritz the Cat is an absolutely amazing film. I saw at a very young age. It was on Netflix streaming. Like I said in one of these previous videos, Netflix used to have some absolutely wild shit on their streaming service when they first started it as a streaming service. And that's where I found Fritz the Cat, and I watched it so many times, and I couldn't tell you necessarily why, because I didn't start to really like appreciate the humor of the film and the style of the film until well after the cutoff point of this that I have on this video series, which is around 15 years old is the cutoff point for this series. But Fritz the Cat really stuck with me, and I don't know why. I think it just might have been the sexual content of the film combined with the fact that it's like this weird underground kind of 70s film, a movie that nobody I knew really knew anything about. And yeah, what can I say about Fritz the Cat that hasn't already been said? It's an absolutely amazing animated film, and I would highly recommend it to just about anybody, especially people who like animation and want to see more films that are geared towards an adult audience. Fritz the Cat is most definitely that. But with that, I'm gonna end the video, and you say goodnight. Anyway, guys, this is Biscaboo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.